So every campaign, whether it's for city council or the White House, eventually gets around to taxes, right? That's the basic element of the food chain that every campaign gets to. So this week, this campaign got to taxes, the presidential campaign, but in a very interesting way, which is to say, I thought the White House did a masterful job of using taxes to change the subject from jobs, news not so good, to taxes, where I'm for the middle class having a tax cut, and Mitt Romney, is for the rich guys having a tax cut.
Yeah, and it was all a big repackaging of what he's advocated for years, right? I mean, this is his, and it's this gift, of course, that the Bush administration left behind, or Congress left behind, which is this, every year we seem to, every 6 months, this conversation about what we're going to do with the Bush tax cuts.
Right, and I think that so we have this competition where Obama says, I'm only going to raise taxes on rich people, and Romney says, I'm going to cut taxes on everybody, and neither one of them can really explain how it is they get out of this deficit muddle while pursuing these tax things. Right. So it seems to be completely calculated for the campaign and not calculated for not for governing.
Yeah. Well, and the beauty of it is, I mean, the fact that Obama he wanted to change the subject because he didn't like last week's jobs report. Right. The idea that he would choose to change the subject to taxes is kind of, shows how different the Democrats' position on taxes are. They used to hate talking about taxes because Democrats were the big tax raisers. And now he kind of likes this debate. Yeah. Democrats can say Republicans want to, cut a break for the rich people, and I don't.
Yeah, see, that was what I thought was really interesting, is because if you're sort of stuck in two campaigns or 3 campaigns ago, which is what happens if you've been around long enough, you think, oh, it's the Republicans who want to talk about taxes because they're for low taxes. It's not true now. Our polls showed that Republicans had an advantage. People said Republicans can handle taxes better by a 10-point margin just 2 years ago. Now it's basically even between the two parties. And I think you sent me a Pew poll that says when people are asked, can Obama or Romney do a better job on taxes, it's Obama by 8 percentage points.
Which is just, this is a poll that just came out this week, and it's showing not only is Obama up by 7 points, but he's also now got the advantage on that whole
Jen, is any of this going to happen in Congress before the
Oh, the theater part of it will happen before the election. The theater part. I mean, there'll be votes in the House and the Senate about whether to extend the Bush tax cuts in whole or in part. But the two parties are never going to come together on this before an election. I mean, they have no political incentive to, and I got to say, the groundwork has not been laid.
But what I wanted, I guess the question to you is just, this is a brinksmanship that could mirror what happened last summer with all the fallout. Is there a possibility that this could start, if there's not movement in Congress, could start to rattle the markets and maybe even the credit rating agencies, and could not exactly rebound to Obama's favor?
Well, there's beginning to be more focus on what happens at the end of the year. Taxes will go up and spending will be cut unless Congress does something. I think that the markets are pretty cynical and they don't expect anything to happen yet. So all this can do is call attention to it. I mean, the one interesting thing is apparently if you're a defense contractor and you might have to lay off workers, you have to give some warning of that under the law. So we may start to see those warning notices. But I think that'll really wait till after the election. Then people will say.
But that is a problem for the president. I mean, if you're in Virginia, where if you go down to Hampton Roads, the southeastern part of the country, the state, there are a lot of people down there with defense jobs who have already been told you might lose your job because of defense cuts, either the ones that the president's already promised or the ones that come if Congress can't get its act together.
Which has been a theme. The Romney people have jumped on that in a big way this week to hammer, with Obama going down to Virginia, of course, hammering on exactly that theme.
But do you think if people get disgusted with this and they say this is another example of government can't get anything done and these people are just at each other's throats and not doing the people's business, does that cut for Romney or does it cut for Obama?
I think it cuts. I mean, in the end, I think it cuts for Obama, really. I mean, though it's funny because in the same poll you can see a real dropping off just in faith in both parties in a big way, particularly among independents. I don't know. What's been amazing to me is just the resilience that Obama. The economy is foul. It hasn't been really showing much signs of strength, and yet there's just this sort of bumping along weird solidness of support for Obama that I don't quite understand.
You know, I think it's partly just because people don't understand who is Mitt Romney and what kind of alternative is he presenting. I mean, they may not be happy with the way things are going. They may not be happy with Obama, but Romney, the only thing Romney has going for him is that he's not Obama.
Yeah, but that gets you to what I think is the other really interesting poll finding I saw this week, and this was in, I think, the Washington Post poll, but it's similar to what we saw in our poll, which is that the race is basically even, okay, the presidential race, more or less. But if you look at the people who are going to vote for Romney, the majority majority of them, and in some polls a wide majority of them, say I'm voting for Romney because I want to vote against Barack Obama, not because I want to vote for Mitt Romney. I don't know if that's good news for Mitt Romney because it shows you how intense the opposition to Obama is, or bad news for Mitt Romney because it says, well, they haven't exactly fallen in love with you yet.
Well, they say that their mission now is to exacerbate that, the lack of support for Obama, and we've seen it. We'll talk, I guess, a bit later about some of the ads and all that. But then their mission in time, like coming next month or after that, will be to boost him up, and they'll try to.
And they're already pointing to the convention, saying that's what a convention's for. But you got to wonder.
Right? And I really worry about a campaign that's run like that. The only thing that he has going for him is that he's not Obama, because you like to think with big problems like we've got that somehow the election will give the winner a mandate to do something, and this isn't a mandate to do anything. This is just a mandate to continue not being Obama.
So I noticed a lot of criticism from Republicans now of Romney, saying he's not setting out, he's not saying who he is, he's not setting out an agenda. This vacation was a disaster. Does that have any impact on the campaign?
I think there's been signs of a little bit of a fear this week. I mean, this campaign has suddenly started to get really nasty. And I think that maybe reflects also this call. You've got to start getting tough. You've got to start going after Obama. I mean, the reality is that there have been these terrible job numbers. There's a lot of reason that I think that Romney should be kind of inching up above Obama in the polls, and it is not happening.
Well, although you got to mark me down as a skeptic on that, because every presidential campaign at some point about now, the party of the candidate that's either challenging or behind the old pros start to say, oh my God, they're doing a terrible job running the campaign. We would have done much better, you and I, but we're not running it now. And I kind of had the feeling a little of that was going on this week, that, you've seen it before.
Yeah, and, my favorite metaphor came from Peter Hart, our pollster, the Democrat, who said when we came out with yet another poll showing it neck and neck, he said, it's a dead heat on a merry-go-round. It looks like people are moving around, but there's not much is
That's
changing.
the real story, and the question is what moves them. And does this outsourcing debate, for example, move it? We'll talk about that a little bit later. But I mean, so the Romney assertion is, well, Obama outsourced jobs because he sent stimulus money overseas and created jobs. And the Romney assertion, the Obama assertion is, well, Romney outsourced jobs because Bain Capital, the company he used to run, outsourced jobs. And it's kind of ridiculous to assume that Mitt Romney would want to be the outsourcer in chief if he were president, or that Barack Obama tried to send jobs overseas.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, the reason I think both campaigns are talking about it is that people worry about this.
Yeah.
That Americans are quite threatened by what's going on in the rest of the world. Since 1999, U.S.-based big multinationals have cut employment by the U.S. by 1 million jobs and added over 3 million jobs overseas. It really had nothing to do with Bain or anything to do with the stimulus. It's how the global economy is changing. I think what's interesting is both of them are picking up on this fear and this anxiety, but neither one of them is really offering much of a recipe to change the dynamic.